welcome back. Now, time to get a little bit more work done to Project Wraith here. Now, it's been getting cool. It's been 2 weeks since the last episode. There's leaves everywhere, and the temperature has dropped drastically. So I'm running out of time before winter really hits, and I can't really do much more on it. So, the engine's sitting right here. Still turns over freely by hand, which is great. I do want to get inside of it and change some things. I probably could run it as it is, but I'd rather not right now. I'm on the fence of doing it just because of how quick I can get this thing on the road. Because I've actually been contemplating selling the gray work truck and putting all that money into this one so I can get this on the road faster, which I may end up doing. I may do a couple more things to the work truck, get rid of it, and then dump all the money into this. Because I've been waiting to build this for years, and it's about time, and C10 prices are up, so the work truck ought to bring some money. But before I drop the engine in there, I mentioned putting some springs on it, because someone heated those springs up, and they told me that when I bought the frame to lower it. So I've had some brand new springs sitting around for a while, stock height springs, and these are, you know, typically on the small block Chevy trucks. So the Pontiac does weigh a little bit more, so it's going to drop it a little bit lower than what the small block Chevy would have. And this is why I'm doing this now. One, there's not a lot of tension on the springs, easier to change. Two, when I drop this in there, I'll go ahead and put a temporary intake on it, put the steel hood back on it, see where it's set so I can get an idea of the ride height before I buy more suspension parts, because I may have to get more of a drop kit than I wanted, or I may get less. I don't know yet. So get all that in there before. Try to save me some money in the long run, obviously. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and get these new springs on, and then get ready to drop that in with all the new mounts and all that stuff. So let's get to it. Yeah, look at that. I would not want to ride on those anyway. So let's put these back in. Alright, look at that. Setting up a little higher now. Engine's right here. I'm not going to use those factory mounts, obviously. What I got over here. So here is the Butler adapter mounts that are made for putting an early 70s, late 60s Pontiac engine into the late 70s, I think early 80s F-body. Now, if I'm not mistaken, they use clamshells, and so did this truck. So I'm hoping that works perfect and it fits just right. So, alright, so now got my motor mounts installed, tightened down. Springs are both in. See the ride height now. Now it's going to get time to take the engine hoist, pull it up, put the headers on it, and then drop it in place, put the new transmission cross member in underneath. I'm just going to set it in there because I'm not really going to use a Turbo 400. I want to use a 200 R4. I've also been told to use a 4L80. I mean, if I could, I'd go 6L80 and try that, because I think that'd be kind of fun, but those are expensive and probably out of my budget range. And actually finding a 200 or 4L80, it's kind of hard to find too. That's just, you know, not made it up to an engine not going anywhere. So I'm going to go ahead and take this front off here and slide it in. So far I'm getting close, but I think I'm going to have to take the headers off in order to get close enough to put the headers back on. Now again, these are temporary headers. Just try to see if they fit. So, almost got it. I had to take the valve cover off because it looks like I'm going to have to run one of those smaller brake boosters, which is fine. It probably needs a new one anyway. My problem is, I'm close and close. I don't think they're long enough. So it might have to be some custom fabrication. Maybe a plate. I can probably make a plate at work out of stainless, use longer bolts and use all 4 bolt holes to hold that mount on, and that'll probably do it. As for the headers, I don't know. So I've done a little more tinkering here. You can see I actually got the driver's side header in. The passenger side, the only reason I can't do it from underneath is because of the old filter housing. No big deal. It's pretty close to the frame there. So if it torques, it may hit, but also I'm still not where I should be. So depending on how these mounts move and where I move them, I may be able to run these, I may not. But that's close. And I actually got quite a bit of clearance there, considering some of the other small block Chevy headers I have in my other truck, and the lack of clearance with those. So this is really not that bad. Just right there. So the problem exists right there. I'm on the lower A-arm. If that tube went back, I would not have an issue at all. That is the only issue now. Alright, there it is. So, engine's dropped in. Mounts are actually closer than what I thought. Header fits pretty decently. I thought I was going to have less issues with the headers. I really thought they was going to fit no problem at all, but I'm going to have to look into other headers. Don't really want to run manifolds, like ram air manifolds, which those aren't bad. I just rather run headers on this truck. So, everything's pretty close. Not far off. Now, technically, I could move the engine back, but I want to leave enough space around the HEI just like it would be on the small block Chevy version of this truck. So I'm trying to set up just like it would be. Also just to make it easier to work on if I got to fix something. I wanted to get this in there and get some stuff mocked up so that over winter I could think about it, tinker around with it a little bit. That way if spring comes I can really get into it. Now the engine, I could probably go ahead and run it. It was freshened up before I got it. That's what I was told. I can take their word for it. Done that before and it's been pretty good. This one still turns over freely by hand, but there's things I want to do to this to change it. Obviously going to run EFI, going to take the fuel pump eccentric out, put a better timing chain on it. I'll probably change the pistons, ARP stud kit lower end, because Pontiac rod bolts are usually the weak spot. It's not the rod, it's not the crank, it's usually the rod bolt. So I'd rather go ahead and upgrade before I get this thing all put together. That means I'm going to take this thing back out, which is going to be a pain. But I knew that going into this. I just needed to mock up and figure out what I needed to do before I put it back in for the last time. And there's still work to do to the whole truck. But that'll probably be more for spring. And I may tinker a little bit over winter and make a few more episodes, but that was a chunk of it right now before spring. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, thanks for watching.